Welcome back. Got another mailbag episode, and this time it's actually fan mail, which is really exciting. So back on the last mailbag episode, I got in this item here, and it's not really important what the item is, but it's relating to an Arduino, and I have a couple pieces for Arduino here. And one of my longtime subscribers actually commented and said, you only have one Arduino? You know, you're going back and forth between the different shields and everything, and the one I have is even in an acrylic case here. And well, he mentioned that he had some of these ATmega 328P PU chips and said I could send you some of those if you'd like. In fact, I even have the thing to program that. By the way, the guy's name is Ross. And anyway, so what he's talking about is this chip that's right here. And the Arduino is basically a little microcontroller circuit. This main chip, some backup components to make the chip operate basically, and some pin headers. And you can connect wires in here, go off to a breadboard and wire various things into it. And then you go to your computer, you build through coding some program for your circuit to run on. Hook this up to USB, and then you download the code to this device and it does your thing. Kind of think of it as like a development board in a way. Now, people who use a lot of Arduino products or build a final thing with it where you don't want all these wires all over the place, you actually want to build a circuit board, end up building what's called a bare bones Arduino, or build it in kit form. And basically you just need the main chip and the ancillary components like the actual crystal for the clock and whatever other little things like some resistors, a couple capacitors, and of course a 5-volt power supply. Now this board has all that and then the programming interface, but in basic form you just need those basic items. And then obviously you would program it with a USB programmer, which you would just plug into the final thing, do its programming, and then disconnect it and leave it alone. Or you would use something like this, program the chip, and then take the chip and then install it into the final product, and then it's done. So I have now in this box over here the pieces he sent me. I just received this in, and I have not opened it because in an email conversation back and forth, he said, you know, I'm going to send you some of these chips, I'm going to send you some of the programming pieces, and a surprise. And the surprise is based upon other things we talked about, and I have an idea what it may be. I mentioned in the email that I wanted to get into the Raspberry Pi, which kind of sort of does the same thing, but it's more advanced. People actually run, I believe, a version of Linux on it, so you can actually use it like a mini computer, and it has Wi-Fi and networking and a whole bunch of other stuff, and they make Arduinos like that. The other thing I mentioned was a device called the Latte Panda, which is actually a Windows 10 mini computer with the Arduino chip built on it. So you can actually make an all-inclusive device that you can actually program the code right there live and send it back to itself, and then have that device do its own thing, which I thought was really cool. And you know, I mentioned that, and then he sent another email, hey, I found all that stuff, I'm gonna send it out, plus a surprise based on our email. So I'm not sure what that surprise is based upon what I sent, but I have an idea, like I said, what it may be. So let's give this an open here. Comes in a 3D printing box. That's pretty interesting. That's something else I would like to play with one day, once I get the money saved up for it, of course. There's so many different models out there, and they keep getting cheaper and cheaper. Okay, here we go. Let's see what's in this bad boy. Oh, more paper to unwrap. Let's see if there's anything in here. No. Now he comes from Virginia. Actually, it's Fredericksburg, Virginia. Sure hope the weather is warmer down there in Virginia, because it is cold as hell here in New York. All right, let's see. The suspense has been killing me. This thing's been sitting on my table all night. I just got a chance to look at it now. Ginger Chews. What is this? This is interesting. We'll take a look at that in a second. Ah, look at that. We got 3 chips. That's awesome. So these are the chips I was telling you about. This is the ATmega 328P-PU. And he said he was going to load some code on these, just the basic Blink code, so they're ready to go. We'll give that a look and see. And oh, look at that. It's a Raspberry Pi Zero. Now, truth be told, I know nothing about these, so this is all virgin territory for me. And he said I would have to read up on this, so I will definitely do that for sure. That's it. And there's a little SD card here. As you can see, 4 gigabyte SD card. So it's got memory on it, and it's got a processor here, obviously. A couple USB ports. That's actually an HDMI port, so you can hook this right to a TV. There's a little header over here. I'm not sure what that is, and there's this big header. And this big header here is pretty much what the Arduino has going on. So those are a bunch of inputs and outputs and stuff. Cool, first Raspberry Pi, that's awesome. So thank you for that. You can see there's the HDMI logo. Okay, so we'll look at that in a second. This is a, looks like some kind of USB adapter for some sort. Not really sure. All you Pi guys out there and Pi gals are going, I know what that is. Okay, so there's the chips, and then this has got to be the programmers. Let's see, this slides. Oh, what's this? This is all kinds of cool stuff in here. Oh, this is a handmade board. Okay, that's really cool. Okay, this is actually, all right, yeah, this is the Arduino board here itself. This is an actual handmade board. So there's gonna be a voltage regulator on here. Yep, that's up there. This is the chip, the socket the chip fits into. That's gonna be your reset button. Here's your crystal. There's an LED on here, and there's a couple of quite a few wires in the back. These are all the traces. It's easier to do this in wiring than actually try to do real traces. You know, if you were doing this everywhere for all this, it'd be a mess. So that's definitely an easy way to do it. He said it was a little ugly, but functional. And well, Lord knows half my stuff's ugly and functional. So yeah, you're not going to put a shield on this. That's fine. I don't care about that. But that's pretty cool. So I'm definitely going to play with this guy. I'll get something on that. Possibly hook one of these on there. See if we can get the basic Blink to go. So that's really, really cool. And I like the tin it came in. That's even more interesting. So yeah. Oh, and then yeah, the last thing here. That's brand new. This is, oh, he said what it was. There's a CP2102 and a PL2303 USB to serial board. And that's, I'm just looking at the email behind me here. So this is one of those. Okay, I can kind of barely see. I have to take it out of the bag here and see exactly what it is. But yeah, that's really, really awesome. Thanks again, Ross. I'll definitely send you an email. Really cool. Really, really cool. So I'm going to play with this just a moment and see what I come up with. Okay, so a little internet search took me down the rabbit hole pretty deeply, and I spent a good at least half an hour just reading up on some stuff over here. And I had to tear away from that because I will be on that for the rest of the night, most likely. There's some really interesting stuff I came across here. So first of all, we'll take a look at some of these items in a little bit more detail now that I see what's going on here. So the most recent email that Ross sent me mentions that there isn't actually a bootloader on these chips, nor is there any coding or anything. So I have to either put a bootloader onto it, which will allow me to connect this serial device and connect this to the computer, so that then the computer can take the code, translate it through this obviously to the chip, and then it can load to that chip. The other way to do that, I believe, is just to physically take this chip and plug it into here and use this to put the code onto it. But then there's still no bootloader on it, so I couldn't then take this later on and put it into the final project, whatever this goes into, and then change it at that point. I'll have to read up on how to actually put a bootloader onto this. I may need another device to do that. I'll have to check that out. I started reading up a little bit on it, and it got really deep. Like I said, this is all virgin territory to me. I also had to, I plugged this in the computer, a little light lit up on it, but I have to make sure the drivers are all installed properly, so I'll check that out. He mentioned that if it's a PL2303 that there's some modding I need to do, but the chip does say that it is a CP2102, and didn't really give me any issue when I plugged it in as far as it popping up with anything, but I didn't really see that it did anything either. So I'll have to get into the Arduino environment and play around with it that way. They make it easy because you just plug it in with a USB connection and just go. You don't have to worry about fiddling with anything else, but it basically has the same kind of chipset. In fact, that's what this is right here. It's converting the USB to serial, and then that's how it's actually talking to this. I mean, after all, serial connections are old school and for a reason, but they're still used. This guy is a standalone board. You can just drop the chip into it, but without there being any code or bootloader, it's kind of pointless. So I'll have to put something on it first before I can make this actually useful. When you do plug the battery in, this light does light up, which indicates it's getting power. And as I mentioned before, there is a 5-volt regulator up here, and you can actually see there's a capacitor on the input and the output. That's pretty much textbook. And I thought that was a reset button, but it didn't really do anything else. I'm thinking this is being used as a status light, but I haven't really traced everything out. And he mentioned in the email this is a pin match, so everything should be exactly the same. Obviously, this is in a line, this is offset, so that's the only difference. But for being so tightly compact on here, he did a pretty good job putting this all together. So I'll have to go a little further doing things with this to make it work, but that's part of the fun of it, of course. And then that brings me to the Raspberry Pi. So he said there's one surprise you'll think you'll like. It's ready to go, just be sure and read up on it a bit. Hint, I wrote the name on the label, which also gives a clue how it hooks up. So this says OTG3. Now I'm thinking that's on the go, as in USB on the go. I did videos on that before. On the go is basically where you plug in the smaller USB into your device, like your tablet, for example, and then you can plug a larger USB into the bottom of it, like a memory card, a mouse, a keyboard, stuff like that, and utilize it. So somehow you can plug this into here and use it as, I guess, an on-the-go device. I think you network into it. I started reading, like I said, a little bit up on it. I don't have a converter for this type of HDMI, which is the midpoint one between what it normally is and what this camera actually has, which I thought, hey, I said, hey, that's a micro HDMI. No, it's a whole different thing. So I have to get an adapter if there's actually any reason to use the HDMI. This may be set up for a whole different nefarious reason. I'm not really sure what's on it right now, so maybe I'll put this into the computer and see if there's anything on there, but it's perplexing to me. I did figure out through reading the little name on here, this header here is actually for a camera, which is pretty cool. There's a special cable you hook into here, and I guess the other end of it hooks up to a standard Pi style camera, and this is a GPIO header, like I mentioned before, so this is where you can get to integrate with different things. And the other USB port on here is for power in. And when I did plug this in, I actually hooked this to the computer to see if it would do anything, just like this. Just stuck it in right in front of the computer. And it lit up, but it said it was an unrecognized device, so I definitely have to read up on it. And I'm perplexed what the OTG designation is on it, but it did have that little adapter in the bag there. So on the path to discovery I shall go, and this should be a fun weekend trying to play with all this stuff. And I'm sure I'll be able to record another video with the progress. It'll be a whole separate episode, obviously, showing off exactly what these things all do. But as far as calling this the mailbag video and just showing everything I got and giving it a brief look at and talk through, and of course the thank you to Ross, that's pretty much going to do it for this. So with that, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you're not already a subscriber, you can click up here in the corner to subscribe, and also you can check out these two videos over here if you want to see more of what I do. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next video.